Greetings to my fellow peace blunderers, and today we're discussing a very dangerous mentality problem and the reason why you may be losing ranking points quite regularly. Now, I also do that from time to time, but who is supposed to be surprised? If my plushy elephant from IKEA could play chess, it would probably play chess better than me. So the problem that is under our microscope today is knowing when to quit and when to stop playing for a win and start playing for a draw. And yes, it's very admirable to always try and play for a win, but sometimes this sort of attitude is leading to you making unforced errors and losing drawing positions. Okay guys, so let me show you what I mean. The position that you're seeing on your screens right now is the one that I've had very recently in Rapid and is a dead draw despite me having a pawn fewer. Now, this is a very important skill that you should foster in yourself, recognizing drawing positions when you have less material than your opponent. With white to move, the position becomes an obvious draw after the following moves. Knight takes, rook takes knight with check, and now king f2. Yes, the opponent has a pawn more, but in the rook ending like this, 3 pawns versus 2 pawns with the kings on the same side, the extra pawn does not really matter. And the way you draw these positions is you do nothing. You do nothing. Absolutely. You just do absolute nix. And this is the key to that problem. A lot of chess players are really not okay with doing nothing. They always try to find some sorts of activity. Maybe I can win. Maybe I can think of something. Maybe there is some kind of move that makes my position better, it improves it, yada, yada, yada. But activity in these sort of drawing positions can be our worst enemy. The best course of action usually is just, moving your rook back and forth, moving your king back and forth, waiting for the opponent to come forward. Some exchanges are going to happen. The position is going to simplify to an even easier draw. For example, in this particular position, the key idea is keeping your rook on the 4th rank or somewhere else where it prevents the king from going forward beyond their pawns, just keeping the king at bay. As long as the opponent king isn't active, it's not attacking my pawns, it's not helping the opponent rook to push my king back, you will be golden. So now let's see what I'm talking about, and let's see how I made this position into an even more straightforward draw. For example, now my king is attacking the opponent's rook. Of course, they have to move it away. They move it to b3. And now I play h3 for 2 reasons. I don't want my pawn on h2 to be weak. That's one. And I also want to get total control over these squares, supporting my rook also, taking control over all these squares. I want to make the 4th rank completely inaccessible. And honestly, I just got everything I want from life now. I don't want any activity happening for me anymore. I accepted the fact that it is going to be a draw. I'm not playing for a win. I'm just moving back and forth. Watch my rook on a4. King h7, rook c4. g6, rook a4. h5, rook c4. King h6, rook a4. You see what I'm talking about? Do not be scared by your opponent's pawns and king moving forward. Eventually, they will stop making any significant progress. Now f6, just for fun, I throw in rook a6. I could have played rook c4 as well, it doesn't matter. Now f5, rook back to a4, king g5, rook c4, and here we go again. The opponent is now throwing in a small check with rook b2, and now I go king f3, rook b3 check again, I go back, king f2, just again back and forth, nothing difficult. Rook b6, we're not concerned, rook a4, king f6, rook c4, g5, rook a4, and now some exchanges will happen. Finally, this is something that we want to happen. This is something that will lead to an even easier draw. g4 takes, rook c4, again doing absolutely nothing, king g5, rook a4, rook b3, rook c4. And now let me just very quickly fast forward to a position that is obviously a dead draw after we have exchanged everything that we possibly could. And this position should be your bread and butter. You just must know how to draw it. It's an easy draw, but you must know how to do it. For any level, I don't care if you're 400, 600, 600, 800,000 and above, you must know how to draw this one. You just create the opposition when you possibly can, and then you do it again because you can do it. And when you can't do it, you just move your king back and forth. Again, very simple. Move it back, and now the opposition again, and now check, go there. The opposition for us, but it's okay. We go back as we should. The opposition again, the opposition again. Can't create the opposition now. We go back, the opposition again, the opposition again. You get the gist. Now let's go back to the starting position and let's see what you could have done to actually harm yourself by trying to be active. I have devised a couple of variations that are all about trying to move your pieces as actively as possible, but ultimately losing because of that. A very simple example of that would be the following. Rook a8 check, very active, still a draw. King h7, rook a7, attacking the pawn, again, very active, very aggressive. f5, still a draw. Rook f7, attacking the pawn again. King g6, attacking the rook, so the rook has to go back to f8. And now the rook, well, the rook doesn't have to go back to f8, but let's imagine that we want to keep it there so it keeps attacking the pawn. f8 is not the best square for the rook because from f8, it's not protecting the fourth rank anymore. It's not protecting anything. It's only trying to attack something that is not going to be vulnerable anytime soon. Now king g5 trying to penetrate the fourth rank because it's not sufficiently defended. And this is still a draw. This is still fine if you play h3 and just lock everything up as I actually did in the game, right? But if instead we decide to be really, really aggro and not looking after ourselves, h4 check, probably the most aggressive move possible on the board. And now after king g4, we're dead lost. No matter what we do, the pawn is going to drop. And now we're definitely going to lose. We're losing the h pawn in the process as well. And, you know, this is game over. Now, you could argue that in the variation I just showed you, white played really, really silly. And they did, admittedly. But trust me, I've seen many, many people, myself included, under this pressure that you put on yourself trying to win. You really do sometimes bad, stupid things. One more example that I can show you that I find less stupid, the mistakes that are happening in this variation are far more subtle, is this. Let's say we still played h3 as we played in the game, a completely fine move, king h7, also completely fine of course, a draw. And now we play a relatively active king g2. Now, why is it relatively active? What is the idea behind king g2? Well, king g2 is defending the pawn on h3. And this is important. That probably means that our further plan, wrong plan, but still a plan, that we want to play g4, maybe h4, g5. We want to push our pawns forward. No. Please no, don't do that. Now let's see what may happen after we follow the plan that we have devised. f5, g4, as I promised you, takes, and now king g6. The king is coming closer. This is still a draw, and probably the most sure way to draw is to put the rook on a5, which protects the fifth rank. But we decide to be active. We play rook a6 check, a very active move. And this is still a draw. However, this is a much more difficult draw than it used to be just 1 move ago. You see, 1 move ago, we had like probably 10, 15 moves that draw. But in this position, after king g5, we have just 1 move that draws. And it's not extremely obvious. It may be relatively easy for some. For some, it may be quite difficult to find. You see, the king has now penetrated our position again, just like in the last example, and is now attacking the pawn. The obvious rook a4 defending the pawn is not going to work. You are already completely lost. After king h4, the king is still attacking the pawn, but now it's completely indefensible because we're going to play some move, random move. It doesn't really matter what we play anymore. And the inevitable rook g3 check is going to follow. The pawn is double attacked and is beyond saving. we lost again. And we basically now shot ourselves in the foot. We are the only architects of our own demise. All we needed to do is to move rook back and forth, move king back and forth, and do nothing, yet we decided to be slightly more active. And this can lead, not necessarily, but can lead out of positions where we try to be active. By the way, if you're curious, the only drawing move in this position that I was showing you was actually rook a7. We are attacking the g7 pawn as a response to our opponent attacking the pawn on g4, so that when they capture with the king, we capture the pawn on g7 with check, and the position is still a draw. So yes, as the final thoughts for this video, just try and improve your skill of recognizing drawing possessions, and try to tame yourself. If you're an aggressive player by nature, trying to learn, try to teach yourself not to play aggressively, not to play actively when you're facing a dead drawing position. It can lead to very embarrassing losses, like it does for me. Sometimes I'm also very prone to this. I always play for a win, and that sometimes leads me to these sort of situations where I try to play for a win and then I lose. Also, interestingly enough, in this position that I was telling you that it's a complete draw, I misclicked quite embarrassingly and was very fuming. Of course, it was ridiculous, but in this position, obviously, I need to play, as I always tell everyone, just king g1, just go back when the opposition is not possible. But I misclicked and I played king h1, and this is now an embarrassing loss. And of course, my opponent capitalized on that. They played the opposition, and I'm being forced out of the safe position, and they queened, and I got bloody mated. Just ridiculous. But what can you do? Sometimes these human errors happen. Sometimes your hand is twitchy. Sometimes your hand is malfunctioning. Yes. So yeah, if you just so happened to find this video useful, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch. I stream Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays usually. Find me on chess.com, join us on Discord, all that good stuff. I'm going to talk to you very soon. My favorite unintentional gambiteers. Love you all. See you in the next one.